Hey everybody, how's it going? I'd like to thank y'all for coming out tonight and joining me here. Hey man, how's it going? So if you can hear me and see me and all that jazz, if somebody could let me know. And then as usual, there are tabs available for the stuff that we're going to be going over tonight. So there should be a link in the description of the video where you can get the tabs. So somebody could just let me know if everything's working and you can hear me and see me and all that stuff. That'd be great. And then also, I'd like to do just a little poll for fun. We did this when we did some Black Sabbath riffs, and we had like a little poll going to see which version of Sabbath you liked better. So here we're gonna do this with AC/DC today. Let's take a little poll to see if you decide whether you like the Bon Scott era of AC/DC, or do you like the Brian Johnson rendition of AC/DC? Which is your favorite out of the two? This is a poll where I can't really decide. They've got so much good material from both from both eras of the band, both great singers. Well, for the style. So yeah, get your tabs and everything, and let's start taking a look at these. So we're not going through entire songs. We're just going to be doing some riffs, just like what we've done in the past. And so this time, coincidentally, the riffs are all from the Brian Johnson era. When we did the last time we did this with AC/DC, a lot of the riffs we did were from the Bon Scott era, but it's just coincidence. I didn't really think about it. In fact, the whole idea for the poll, I just thought of it literally just now. So, but I guess if I had to absolutely choose one, I'd probably have to say the Bon Scott era. I really liked that. All right, so let's see here. Let me pull up. All right, so the first one I guess we're going to look at here is the riff from Hell's Bells. And so this is like the intro riff, and then they also use this during the chorus. And this is a fairly easy one. If I've had some of you guys tell me that you're pretty green and that you're kind of struggling to play some of this stuff. So this particular one is really, really easy to play. And the next one we're going to look at is pretty easy too. I have an easier way of playing it, like an alternative way that we'll talk about. So for this Hell's Bells riff, the first thing you want to do is just take your first finger and come up to the 7th fret on the D string, and you want to bar your finger so you're getting the 7th fret of the D and the G string, and then put your third finger onto the 9th fret of the G string, like you're just doing like a power chord. Now, if for whatever reason that's like a big stretch, if you maybe had a hand injury or you have some arthritis or something, and sometimes really stretching your fingers is difficult, you could also do it barring and then use your pinky to pick up that note too. That it'll work out just fine. So this is like I said, this is a pretty simple one. So if you've got your fingers on here like that, barred here at the 7th fret, and then you're on the 9th fret of the G string, we're just going to pick by starting with the A string open. And then we're going to pick the G string and then the D string. So this is all 8th notes. So that's like 1 and 2. Then you're going to remove your third finger. So it's just your first finger here. And you're going to pick the G string. So that's 1 and 2 and. Now, if you look at it's your transcription, if you look up at the notation part of it, you'll see that fourth note in, that 7 there, it's an eighth note, but it's tied to the next eighth. So what it is, it's going to ring out twice as long as the other notes do. So how you'd count that is 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Or excuse me, 1 and 2 and 3 and then you, on the and of 3, you pick the fourth string again, the D string, and your first finger is already on that note. And then you follow that with the open A string again. So that's like beats all the way except the end of 4, and that's where we're going to make the change. So let's just kind of, work on that part of it. Now, for a lot of you, I'm sure that this is like easy, and you might be thinking, oh, hurry up and just get to the next part. But just remember, you started somewhere too, and so let's just give just a minute for those that, maybe need a little extra help with this. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then on the and of 4, we're just going to take how you're barring here at the 7th fret on the D and G string. You're just going to move that down a whole step. So now you're at the 5th string. Or excuse me, the 5th fret. So we move it down, we pick the G string, and we're here on that 5th fret. Now, if you notice that one, it's played on the and of 4, and then it's tied to the downbeat of 1 on the next, on the second measure. So basically, I guess if you, one way you could look, well, no, that wouldn't even be this. Nah, forget it. Forget what we, never mind. So we come down there, we hit that 5th fret of the G string on the and of 4, and that's tied to the downbeat of 1. And then on the and of 1, we hit the D string, and then on the downbeat of 2, the open A string. And then we move that finger back up to the 7th fret again, G string, and this is another one that's 2/8 notes tied together, so it'll ring out longer. D string, and then the A string twice. So that's the first 2 measures. Now, when you hit that second open string, that's basically like where the riff is starting over again. So after the first 2 measures, then put your 3rd finger back down here onto the 9th fret of the G string again. So we got the same thing. Take that finger off. Move down to the 5th fret again. Back up to the 7th fret. And then this time, we just hit that 7th fret of the G string, and instead of going on to the 4th, we have a different riff there. So up to that point, whoops. Then after that, we have to come down, and we have a C5 power chord. So my first finger is on the 3rd fret of the A string. And then I'm going to be, generally I would play a regular 5th power chord with my 3rd finger, but I'm going to use my pinky in this case. So my first finger is on the 3rd fret of the A string, and then my 4th finger is on the 5th fret of the D string. And we're going to strum that, and then we're going to move the note on the 3rd fret down a half step to the 2nd fret, but keep our pinky here on the 5th fret. So, and then that end, follow that with the open A string. And then the whole thing just repeats. So all of it really slow. And that's basically the whole riff. Now, the overall tempo of this song, it's not very fast. So to even get this one up to speed is fairly easy to do. See, it's probably about that seems about right. All right. So if you want a little extra credit on that, the next part of the song, like it's actually the verse, it's just these same chords, but instead of arpeggiating it, so you can bar your first finger at the seventh fret on the D and the G string, then your third finger on the G string, and it's so you strum it once with your third finger on, take it off, strum, and then back on. And then the just where we're barring across the on the same fret, the seventh, or excuse me, the seventh and the fifth frets on the D and the G string. And that's like how the verse part of it goes. And then when it goes back into the chorus, it's the riff that we again. So yeah, that's basically all of that riff. So anybody have any questions on that or anything? Rusty, did you try? Did you get your guitar and try to play that? Oh, and then as always too, this is a Q&A. So if you have any questions, it doesn't even need to be about like AC/DC or the riffs we're talking about or whatever. It's just guitar related questions in general. Lay them on me if you have them. And no one's participated in my poll. So if you missed when I asked that, what I'm asking for is for let's have a little poll, a little vote. Which era of AC/DC was better? The Bon Scott era or the Brian Johnson era? Which era do you like better? All right, so nobody has any questions or anything about this, about that riff? Oh, the AC with the question mark DC, that was a typo. I meant to go back and fix that in the title, and I forgot. So I don't know. It kind of came out funny as like a joke because in the thumbnail I'm holding my guitar this way. So yeah, maybe I'll leave it. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really make any difference, but yeah, we're just doing some AC/DC. All right, so I guess we can move along then to the next riff. So the next riff we're going to look at is the opening beginning riff for Those About to Rock. So I'm going to show you two ways that you can play this. The original way isn't too terribly tough, but it does have you have to completely switch your hand position in the middle of it. But I have like an alternative way you can do it that is much easier to play, and you're not really missing out a whole lot on it to if you play it this way. This is actually the way that I originally played it when I first figured it out by ear when I was a kid. I played it the second way I'm going to show you, and then it wasn't until later on that I could hear that I was actually missing one note. All right, so for this, if you would just take the regular old D chord shape, and we're just going to move it all the way up so that your first finger is on the 11th fret of the G string, and then your second finger is on the 11th fret of the high E, and then your third finger is on the 12th fret of the B string. Now, for this to get the sound like he's getting, you don't want to use a guitar pick. You actually want to, you're going to play it with your fingers. So you're going to use your first finger to play the G string, and your second finger to play the B string, and then your third finger to play the high E. And how I do it is I just hold them there, and it's just like this motion here of just like closing my fingers together. I rest this part of my palm on these lower strings. So one, it's resting my arm, and it's also keeping the other strings quiet. From Russia. Yeah, you've been on here before. Thanks for joining us. All right, so we're going to have that shape here, said like the D chord, but at the 11th fret on the G and the B, or high E, and then 12th fret on the B string. Now, this is it's just made up of eighth notes, but you put an accent on the downbeat of 1 and on the and of 2, and then on the downbeat of 4. So it's like, you almost think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but we're not really playing a triplet. We're just going to put a little bit more emphasis on that. We're like, it's like, so you just want you want the one. So if you're looking at your transcription, that's what those are at the, on top of the notation. It looks like less than signs. Those like little arrow pointing to the right. So that's, or those little arrows or less than signs or whatever you want to call them. They're I guess that would be, maybe be greater than. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in a math class, but I just remember they have little symbols that look like that. I'm not going to try to fool anybody either. I suck at math. So you want to put more emphasis on that. So if you think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that kind of makes it easier to kind of get it down. So you've got 2 whole measures of that. And then our first change that we're going to do, and this is what I was saying, that this one is a little bit tricky, is we're going to switch from this shape. We're going to switch to like we were doing in D minor. So you'll move your third finger will stay where it is on the 12th fret of the B string, and then we're going to move our middle finger to where our first finger is on the 11th fret of the G string, and then our first finger is going to come back down to the high E, or up to the high E rather, onto the 10th fret. So it looks like the shape of a D minor. And when we're going to do this for like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we're just going to do that twice. Then for this next part, there's 2 ways that you can do it. You can, at this point, put your pinky, leave your first 3 fingers where they are, and put your pinky onto the 14th fret of the high E string, and do it one time, 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to go to like a that note's going to move from the 14th fret down to the 12th fret, And then from there you have to, it just starts over. So you have to go back to this D shape. So, whoops, like that. So that is a little bit more challenging, especially if you're a beginner. It might be kind of challenging to do that to be able to get it in time. So let's work with this for a minute, and then I'll show you this alternative way to do it. So you'll be like, like that. So if you really want, I mean, if you really want it to have the, the more authentic sound of like what he's actually doing, you're going to want to do it that way. But I do have this alternative way that I'll show you how to do it. And it does make it a lot easier. And it sounds almost exactly the same. Like I said, it's the way that I originally thought that is how they played it. And I played it that way for a long time until, until I got better, my ear got better, and I could hear that I was missing a note. So before we move on to the alternative way, does anybody have any questions? It's like a super quiet crowd tonight. I like it when the chat's all full and it's hard for me to keep up with it. So chat away, ask questions. And I guess nobody has an opinion on whether they like the Bon Scott or Brian Johnson version of AC/DC better, whichever one that you like better. I guess nobody has an opinion on that. You can't tell the difference between the Bon Scott and the Brian Johnson era? It was actually quite a big change. It's the album Back in Black is the first one that had Brian Johnson on it, and not only did the vocal style change drastically, but it also musically it changed quite a bit too. At least that's how it seems to me. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, then I guess we can move on. So this alternative way that I wanted to show you how to do it is that what you basically do is you omit the G string. So this one, if you put your middle finger on the 12th fret of the B string, and then your first finger onto the 11th fret of the high E, and then put your third finger on the 12th fret of the high E, and then put your pinky on the 14th fret of the high E. So that's going to give you all of the notes and everything you need. So we're going to start off with our pinky and our third finger off. Now we're just going to be picking just the B and the high E string. So I'm just using my first finger on the B string and my second finger on the high E. And it's that same timing. Now, what we can do is just move your first finger down a whole step like that. Now you put your pinky onto 14, and then your third finger 12, and then move your first finger back up. So this way it's a lot easier to play, but you are missing that. So it's the same thing. The note that you're missing is you've got this is like a triad. So this note here is actually the fifth. This note is your root, and this is the third. So if you're by not leaving this note out, you're just leaving the fifth out. But the melody is actually created from that third. So that's why it still sounds pretty good and okay to do it. Now, like I said, it doesn't really sound all that much different. So if you're new or you're struggling or whatever, there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It still sounds enough like the song to play it, and you'd be hard pressed to play it that way and have somebody listening to it go, hey, you're missing this. I mean, it's possible, but not real likely. All right, so that does it for that riff. It's one of my favorite AC/DC riffs. I really like the part, like the song starts out with that, and then after it goes through, and then when the other guitar comes in, I really like what he's doing, like the Malcolm Young stuff in there is just really great, I think. So if you want to play that part, I don't have it tabbed out, but it's just take your B5 power chord. So my first finger is on the second fret of the A string, and my fourth finger is on the fourth fret of the D string. And then we're going to have B5 over A. So you just take your first finger off. And then we're going to do like a G. So just like a G chord, but we're not going to pick all of it. We're just going to pick the low E, A, D, G. So yeah. So we E, A, D, G, and then you're going to move your first finger to the second fret of the low E, and we're just going to strum that and the open A string, then to an E5. That part, I think, when those two parts are being played together, it just sounds really awesome. Really dig it. All right, so any questions on that riff for those about to rock, or just anything in general? Like I said, this is just a regular Q&A. So if anybody's got any questions or anything, let's have them. Pretty quiet group tonight. Usually there's a lot more interaction. So come on, let's get some questions, comments on whether you like the Brian Johnson or Bon Scott version better. Oh, from Brazil. Awesome. Have some guitar amplifiers that were from a Brazilian company, Meteoro. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, then we can move along. So the last one we're going to look at is the riff from Back in Black. So this one overall is probably this is definitely the most difficult riff that we're looking at tonight. And the one part in it that, well, there's several parts in it that might be difficult depending upon your skill level, like where you're at right now. But there's one section of it where I have an alternative way that makes it a little bit easier to play, and we'll look at that. Yeah, they are great amps. I have 4 of them, I think. I've got they're all combo amps. I don't have any of their heads or cabinets or anything. Those are pretty hard to get in here in the United States, but the combo amps, they're great. I've got 2 nitrous 210 GSs, and I've got the little acoustic guitar one, and then just another little, can't remember the model, one that's got all the effects built into it and stuff. Pretty cool little amps. Everybody always thinks they're tube amps when they hear them. They're like surprised when I tell them they're solid state. All right, so for Back in Black, the beginning of that song, it just starts off with just like those, like counting, like they're counting in. It's the hi-hat and then the guitar just muted. So what you want to do is just take your fingers and just lay them across the strings. Don't press down, just touch them, so that way it's just muted. And then you just do that as quarter notes. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then you rest on 3 and 4. So like when you listen to the song, you hear that, and then you hear the hi-hat, and then that's where it starts. All right, so the very first chord is just an E5, so the low E string open, and then I just first finger onto the second fret of the A string, and I just bar it, so I'm getting the second fret of the D string as well. But you don't have to do that necessarily. You can get away with just playing the E and the A, because that note here is just another E. And that can be said for any power chord, really. Like if you're playing, the same if you're playing an A5, you don't have to play that note. If you're playing them this way, sometimes you'll see them written, 3rd fret, 5th fret, and then the 5th fret on the D string. Again, those notes are the same. So if you can't, for whatever reason you can't fret that, it's totally fine. So we've got this E5 is a quarter note on the downbeat of 1. So it's like 1, and then we rest on the downbeat of 2, and then on the end of 2, we just got a regular old D major chord. So D string open, first fret of the the second fret of the G string with my first finger, the 3rd fret of the B string with my 3rd finger, and the 2nd fret of the high E with my 2nd finger. And we're going to strum that 3 times, but the first 2 are 16th notes. So it's those 2 16th notes accounts for the and of 2. And then the 3rd one is a quarter note, which accounts for beat number 3. And then we have a rest on the downbeat of 4. And then on the and of 4, we have A. So A string open, and then the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B string. And I'm just using one finger to bar that. So a lot of you probably learned how to play A with 3 fingers like this. This way is much, much, much easier to do it. Not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it does make it a lot easier to make transitions rather than having to try to cram all your fingers together. So that's so that's on the and of 4. And then the downbeat of the 4th measure is the 3rd strum, which is a quarter note. So it's the same timing as it is on the D chord. So we've got 1, 2, and a 3. So that's like a big part of that riff. Like that. So when we hit that last A, it's the downbeat. It's of number one. Well, it's all of number one. It's quarter note of the fourth measure. So it's like one, and then we rest on two, and then starting on beat number three and number four are made up of 16th notes. So when it goes to beat number three, you rest on that first 16th note. And then this right here, this is the first challenging part, probably going to be the part that's the most challenging for most players, unless you already have some experience and stuff. So we're going to go to the third fret of the high E. And for this, I'm going to use my third finger. We're going to pick that, and then the high E open. And then go to the B string and do the same thing. Third fret, and then open. So like I said, these are 16th notes, so it's got to be fairly quick. Now, don't put too much emphasis on trying to play it fast right now. Just start off with just playing it. Even if you're playing it really, really, really slow, you'll pick up speed over time. So first the high E, B string, then we're going to go to the second fret of the G string, and we're going to pick that and do a bend and release like that. So you're bending up and then back down, and then you pull it off. Like that. So even if you're literally going you'll get it down. All right, so far 3, 4. All right, and then from there we go on to measure number 5, which is actually the same as measure number 3. So we go back to that E5 again, then the D, then the A, and then that leads us to this last part of the what would be that? It'd be the 6th measure. So. Okay, so for this riff here, we're gonna start off. We're gonna play the second fret of the A string with your first finger, and this is all made up of 16th. Well, almost all made up of 16th notes. So you pick on the downbeat of 2, and then from there we're gonna go to the 4th fret of the low E, and then we have a rest. So this is like 2 E and we come back to the 2 there. So if you want to think of it more, like I've said in the past, like if you try to count, sometimes it's easier just to feel your way through stuff than trying to count it. So way we can think about this is that it's 2 notes, rest, 2 notes, rest, 2 notes, rest. So it's 2nd fret of the A string to the 4th fret of the low E, and then a rest. Then we go back and we do the 2nd fret of the A string again, and then this time we're going to go to the 5th fret of the low E. So 2, 4, 2, 5, and then 2, 6, and then 2, 7. So, and then it would just repeat. So that's a pretty big stretch. All right. So, like I said, I've got an easier way to do that very last part of it. Because like I said, it's a pretty big stretch. And even if you can't, make the stretch and you're just trying to do it with just 2 fingers, like you have to move your hand back and forth, and it's fairly quick. It leaves a lot of room for error. So an alternative way that you can do this is you'll start off with that 2 to 4 and then 2 to 1 on the A string. Or, my bad. 2 to 4 and then back to the second fret of the A string, and then the A string open, back to the second fret, to the first fret, and then back to the second twice. Because that last 2 and 7 is the same note. They're both B's. So. So that's fairly easier than doing this. So 2, 4, 2, open, 2, first fret, back to the second fret twice. So it's a little bit of an alternative way you can do it. It's the same notes. It's the same timing. It doesn't really sound, the biggest thing that sounds different is just the overall tonality of this string. When you're, even though that's an A and that's an A, it sounds slightly different. B flat, just because it's on the, the low E string versus the A string. Even though it's the same note on the same octave, it's just going to have a little bit of a different tone because of the difference in the string. All right, so that's the riff from Back in Black. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And a Merry Christmas to you too. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so does anybody have any questions about that? So that one is a little bit more complicated. So, if you have any questions about it, if you're uncertain on something, just ask away. Or if you just have any guitar related questions in general, go ahead and ask those, because that's what we'll do for the last few minutes here, is just do a little Q&A. Anybody have any exciting plans for Christmas this year? You crack me up, Rusty. I'm sure that you don't suck. You just, that first one, that Hell's Bells, that intro to that, work on that. Just play it really slow. That's fairly simple. It shouldn't be too tough to pick up. Also, too, if any of you are interested in like learning some Christmas tunes and stuff, Guitar Control has a Christmas song course that they've got on sale right now. There's 2 volumes, one of them taught by yours truly. So there's a link in this thread. I think it's I think they put that as a comment at the very beginning of it, if anybody is interested. You can play that, but you can't do the end. So you mean the end of let me pull it back up. So you mean the that part? That's what you're having trouble with? Okay, so going that right there is what you're having trouble with. Okay, so a couple of things that you can do to help with that. That's actually a common problem, not for this riff specifically, but just making the stretch like that. Um, if you play like this, like most people do, you know, they put the guitar over here. When you go to stuff like that, it is a lot. It's more difficult because my elbow, I'm all the way up against my body, so I don't have a lot of mobility right there. But if I come over onto this side, now when I reach up, bring my thumb around the back, and you see I've really got my wrist bent like this way. Now it really can make these stretches. I don't have those cool like Steve Vai, you know, big long alien finger hands. I've got pretty small hands. I don't have long fingers. So it makes it a lot easier for me to make those stretches like that. So if you're trying to do it, you know, this method where you've got your thumb up here and the palm of your hand against the back of the neck, it's virtually impossible to make stretches like that if you're playing that way. So I really recommend sitting this way, putting the guitar this way. I didn't start out this way. I played, you know, like this, like a lot of people do, probably most people. And then when I switched to play this way. It was like kind of a little bit of a learning curve. The first couple of days, it was tough. But after moving this way, it made everything so much easier to play. I mean, I can't recommend enough how much better it is to play this way. And I'll do that with all my private lessons too. You know, I don't like force them to do it that way, but I, you know, get them to try it. And, you know, 99% of people end up sticking with it because they can see the benefit of it, that it does make it easier. Yeah, but saying about injuries to your hand, I can relate. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but if I can get the camera to focus in on it, you can see that big scar running down the length of my finger. I've got one there, here, there across my thumb. I was driving one time and I had the window down and I was driving. I had my hand out like this. I had my hand on the roof of my car and I got into a car accident and the car flipped over and the car landed on my hand and just destroyed it. They told me I'd probably never be able to play that I'd never probably be able to play again. You know, it was like pretty depressing. This was about 27 years ago. And so, yeah, I don't have, like, my thumb is stationary like that. It doesn't bend. It's caused some problems. I have massive arthritis in this hand now and stuff, but I still, you know, we just worked around it. You know, everybody's got, like, you know, some sort of a little, you know, handicap, so to say, that prevents them from doing this or that. That's why it's a thing that you know, you can't look at guitar as that it's a one size fits all, and that if you watch so and so on YouTube play, and if you sit the way they sit and you hold your guitar the way they do and you have your thumb like how they do, that's not necessarily going to work, because it all depends on you, like the length of your arm, the length of your torso. There's like different things that factor in that you have to kind of make adjustments for and stuff. All right. So does anybody else have any questions or anything? Yeah, totally. I agree that everybody's I guess everyone, you know, being silent, calm before the storm for Christmas. I'm glad I didn't put my Santa Claus suit on for this. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, we've went over the material. I think we could probably we can call it a night. but I do appreciate everybody that's come out and supported in this, and I hope you're getting something out of it. Like I've said before, if you have any ideas, or suggestions for topics or whatever that we could do for this, leave them in the comments. I read through that stuff, and I appreciate the input, and I like to come out and have material that you guys would be be interested in checking out and everything. But again, I appreciate everybody coming out. Stoned, what can I say? No, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but I do appreciate everybody coming out. And if you like the content, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we upload throughout the week. There's 2 or 3 new lessons a week. And a lot of the, generally at least 2 of them are content for myself, aside from the live stream too. So like earlier today, they published a lesson that I did on some, pentatonic licks and stuff. So check that out. Drink and shine. Do you make your own moonshine, or are you talking about that stuff that you buy that comes in the mason jar? All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate it. And I hope you all have a, good holiday weekend. Be safe out there. If you go to a party or wherever and you've had a little bit too much to drink, take a cab, get an Uber. It's not worth getting a DUI or, or having to live with that you killed somebody in a car accident or something. But be safe out there, and hope you all have, great Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, all that different stuff. All right. I appreciate y'all, and I will see you next Wednesday. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks.